Professor. Today we are presenting H&M. While H&M led innovation in the fast fashion market, it is now facing a turning point. A point when Zara has overtaken H&M in sales and profitability, and H&M must reassess its current strategy and its core capabilities in order to establish whether it can continue its current rate of market growth. H&M currently has goals of maintaining around 5% growth over the next 5 years, and to improve profitability margin by 5% over the next 5 years. However, in order to do this, it needs to focus not only on increasing its amount of stores, but on boosting comparable unit sales. It needs to maintain and increase its current market share. Its current strategy is to maintain aggressive growth into new store expansion. Its current target rate is to increase its stores by 10 to 15% every year. Key activities in realizing this goal have been new product launches, increased sales channels, and market development. However, while H&M has pursued aggressive market growth in order to realize volume-based sales, it has lost out to superior supply chain management by Zara that it has leveraged and better addressing the high-end fast fashion segment, specifically the fashion insider. As H&M has lost out, H&M must realize how to address its core capabilities in order to compete with Zara and look for new avenues for growth in the future. How H&M can do this is realize its strength and its brand differentiation. H&M has its core brand that does not only appeal to the fashion insider segment, but a broad market focus. A broad market focus that could serve a wide range of consumer segments. H&M can leverage its store capacities and economies of scale in order to extend its range of product offerings and possibly boost sales to more consumers. Moreover, it has differentiated high-end stores such as COS, Monkey, and other stores that could compete for more profitable consumer segments. It should leverage these high-end brands to compete hand-to-hand with Zara in attaining more of the high-end fast fashion market. It should utilize this opportunity to possibly extend itself into a more index-like supply chain and forecasting feedback mechanism to better target and deliver on trends to these high-end consumers.
In order to understand the problem and the path moving forward, we need to have a better understanding about the company H&M and the industry. So H&M is a Swedish company that's been established in 1947, and it's currently the second largest apparel retailer in the world, second only to Zara, and it's the largest cotton consumer in the world, and it has currently over 3,700 stores in 61 countries, with 21 countries that have online shopping. So as we said, they started out in 1947 in Sweden and have expanded over the years rapidly, first in Europe and then moving on to the US and China, and then acquiring a few brands along the way in the 2000s. And along the way, they had collaborations with different designers, ending with the H&M and Balmain designer collaboration in 2015. When we look at their financial performance over the past 5 years, we'll see that they've kept a very decent revenue growth over the past 5 years. But when we look at their profitability, we'll see that it has been steadily declining over the past 5 years, even though it was in small increments, but still declining. Now, when we look at the industry, there's an important thing that we need to understand about how the industry is set up. As Morgan has mentioned in her introduction, the whole industry competition is about supply chain. And the typical supply chain in this industry moves from the cotton producers on one end up to the end users or people who buy the clothes on the other end. And retailers spread their activities over that spectrum in different ways. But typically, we have companies keeping the design, sales and marketing, retail, distribution in-house, with some variation when it comes to the garment production, when it comes to whether they outsource that production and to what extent. Uh, the important thing is when we look at the industry, we'll see that there's a variation of forces at work here. So when we look at the threat of new entrants, we'll see that it's a bit moderate to low, since there are no deterring capital investments that need to be made in terms of production. But on the other hand, companies, in order to globally compete in that area, they need to have very strong brands, very strong distribution networks, and very strong supply chains that need a lot of investment. The degree of rivalry is very high in this area because we're dealing with price-sensitive consumers to some extent, and who have very low switching costs, which means that that there's always these consumers are changing from one designer, one retailer to another. And supply power is very low here because we'll see that there are a lot of suppliers and a lot of producers that companies can switch between, and they leverage their size to dictate their own terms to these suppliers. And when it comes to buyer power, we'll see that on aggregate, consumers don't have a lot of buying power, but there are some instances that where people like activists, labor activists or human rights activists, can affect consumer behavior, which can in turn affect how companies price their products, how they manage their producers or production, or how they address environmental issues. So the takeaways for us from this analysis is that it's important for H&M to think about how it sets up its supply chain, the degrees of outsourcing in each activity, because it's all about reducing the lead time here from design to market, and the better H&M can understand how its competitors are set up along these lines, the better it can the better an idea it would have of how to compete.
In innovating in the fast fashion segment, H&M realized a critical insight that if it was able to address an unmet consumer need, it didn't matter if that consumer need was in Germany, UK, or China. And that critical consumer need was an urban youth want to follow fast, to follow trends in streetwear on a limited budget. This overall market segment wanted fast fashion, on the nose, completely, always changing, but at a great price. H&M grew its profits, revenues, and growth through targeting this segment. However, the overall fast fashion segment does focus on this segment, and their lack of loyalty through their want to switch to anyone who can provide the best fashion at the best price, means that H&M is at a critical disadvantage with recent competition. Indeed, looking at H&M's over product offering, pricing, discounting, advertising, it is clear to realize that the consumer that H&M is targeting is a more broad-based, generally price-conscious youth consumer. The segmentation of the overall product offering shows that, on a whole, H&M is focused on women's wear, with over 57% of their product offering going towards products focused on women. Overall, these product offerings show a general-based urban female around the ages of 15 to 37 who is fashion conscious but wants price and, to a lesser extent, quality. This can be seen through their product offering which is vast, huge, and often it appeals to an individual who wants the widest variety of clothing and product options, but can be more overwhelming to the exclusive, discerning consumer. Moreover, there are pricing options, with the median price point being around $23.67, with a vast majority being between $1 and $20, means that this is the middle range of the fast fashion market. Indeed, sometimes putting it on the lower end. As H&M has a core capability of delivering the lowest price, it means it essentially places itself at a race to the bottom in order to compete for some of its key consumer market, as it is forced to compete on price and not necessary product delivery. This can further be seen in its discounting strategy, where it offers around 23% of their current offering on discount, with more than 10% of that offering being discounted more than 50%. While this often gets youthful, price-conscious consumers in the door with the appeal of sales, it means that the H&M brand is perceived as less exclusive and less valuable. Overall, the advertising is one that is drawn in by hype and buzz. It is on mass advertising with recognizable celebrities and models and huge collaborations with leading designers. While this places overall H&M in the middle of the fast fashion segment and does appeal them to their key target market, it appeals them to a very undifferentiated market that can be taken by other competitors. H&M has moved to try and further target and unlock more value from its consumers in order to maintain their loyalty and keep them coming back to the stores and not to the competitors. One way this can be seen is through the recent targeting of the middle-class mom. Their CEO, in a statement in 2014, explained that his ideal customer was a middle-class woman in her 30s with 2 children who shopped for her entire family at H&M. Unlike the more youthful, less able to spend teenager or young adult, this middle-class woman would have a higher medium income and be shopping for more just than herself. Thus, H&M had to expand its product lines and extend them to fit more than just clothes, but a more lifestyle, holistic brand. This can be seen in product extensions and expansions, such as H&M Sport, H&M Kids, H&M Beauty, and H&M Home. This shows that H&M is positioning itself as a one-stop shop to meet and exceed every need of, on this key specific aspect, the young middle-income urban mother who wants high-quality, low-price products to fit her active, family-oriented lifestyle. However, in trying to deepen its target market, H&M is trying to move a little bit beyond that, to extend its reach, to meet new markets and achieve new growth. However, it cannot do this alone with its current H&M brand. As we've seen before, the H&M brand comes with certain capabilities, but also certain set consumer perceptions, often set consumer perceptions of low value, low quality, and unappealing offerings. If they want to, while these are more of the negative perceptions, H&M is able to move past these and experiment with different product offerings and experiences with different brands. It has acquired around 5 different brands, each with a distinct brand identity, unaffiliated with H&M. While some of these lower-end brands are less profitable than others, the recent successes in select high-end producers such as Coast and other stories shows that H&M is able to target the high-end market in the fast fashion segment with high-quality classic pieces that are intended to last, with emphasis on online sales and curated customer experiences. Coast and other stories shows that H&M is not just succeeding in the overall fast fashion, but can target new, higher-end, more mature urban females who want sleek, minimalistic looks, or maybe romantic or more elaborate looks.
So just kind of taking a step back and looking at not only H&M but also other competitors within the fast fashion strategic group, we see that this is a pretty interesting landscape. We have three more or less big international players. That includes H&M Group, which has H&M the brand and also a few others. We have Inditex, which owns the Zara brand, and we also have Fast Retail, which owns the Uniqlo brand. So these are the big international players, but we also know that there's a few smaller but growing regional players. These include Forever 21, which is based in the US, Primark, which is an Irish company, Mango, Topshop, a few other regional players with these sort of global ambitions. As I mentioned, there is a strong degree of rivalry within this industry just because of the industry structures and because of market structures. For example, there's low switching costs, there's lower barriers to entry, and they also have very similar value propositions, fashionable clothing at an affordable price point. So we see that there is a strong degree of rivalry. When it comes to performance, we see that H&M, Inditex, and Fast Retail more or less dominate this market. This is net sales for the last fiscal year converted to US dollars. We see that Inditex and H&M are the market leaders with around 20 billion in sales. However, we see that even with this trend of growing revenues, H&M's operating profits have actually remained more or less stagnant, while Inditex and Zara has experienced quite a lot of growth in the past 5 years. Going back to this issue of profitability that keeps cropping up, we see that the gross margins of H&M have actually declined since fiscal year 2010. And a lot of that could be attributed to its aggressive growth strategies, but this is something that's of concern kind of going into the future. When it comes to individual brands within the fast fashion landscape, there's three big ones: Zara, Uniqlo, and H&M, and they kind of occupy unique sort of niches within that brand spectrum of brands. Zara, for example, is seen as more premium, high-end, more fashionable. Uniqlo is more like basic items, like your white tees and your simple dress shirts, but they're high quality. And H&M is an affordable mix of basics and fashionable items. So, what does it take to succeed in this fast fashion industry group? Well, some of the core competencies are here. And we see in the middle, kind of the linchpin is really being able to design fashionable styles. Because you can't sell ugly clothing, regardless of how affordable it is. But where fast fashion competition really differs is how they execute on this sort of brand promise to the consumer. And their ability to make fashionable designs in a timely manner and also in a cost-conscious manner depends on really these three dimensions of their business. Supply chain management is very important, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time focusing on this later on in the presentation. But one key aspect of this is the ability to move products quickly from design to the shelves. And we see that Inditex and Zara has been particularly good at this, and H&M can't really compete with that, and having trouble competing with that. With cost-efficient expansion, we see that a common strategy among all these fast fashion firms is to grow aggressively, to launch new stores, to launch new online markets. But how do you do that in a cost-efficient way? One where your investments today actually generate sales and ROI in the future is important. And we also see that brand identity is important. Being able to create brands that differentiate themselves and help to sort of segment and micro-segment the target consumer group. So one of the struggles that H&M has been facing is this idea that they have a portfolio of 6 brands, but the H&M brand is really their only strong brand identity. So kind of looking at these 3 core competencies at the level of specific firms, we can see why H&M really sees Inditex as a growing threat to them. So Inditex has competitive advantages in pretty crucial dimensions. The first is really time to market. So their supply chain and their inventory management systems are structured in a way that really helps them to succeed in fast fashion. And we're actually going to talk about this a bit more on the next slide. The other is that they're able to differentiate their portfolio of brands well enough so that Zara is only about 2/3 of their overall sales, and their other brands are actually very high quality and have a compelling brand following in and of themselves. We see that H&M is not entirely helpless against Inditex, however. We see that one of their competitive advantages is their ability to have economies of scale. The way their supply chain is structured, they're able to produce a lot of product at low cost. And also, because of kind of their brand positioning, they're also able to enter into collaborative relationships with higher-end designers. And when higher-end designers launch products co-branded with H&M, that really helps stimulate sales and revenue. So that's been something that's really helped H&M. But we also see that H&M has made a few big missteps in the past few years. The first is that it's been really slow to online retail and also to launching the China market. And these are two big no-nos because they've essentially dominated all retail news. The other is how H&M can really better differentiate itself at scale. So we mentioned that economies of scale is an advantage, but it also becomes hard to really create a lot of different unique products to sort of target small consumer segments. And that's something that they're really trying to combat when it comes to fashion. So this all has led to essentially Inditex surpassing H&M in its market leader position. And this is something that H&M really needs to respond to. So we're going to kind of go into, Morgan, our supply chain expert, is going to sort of share a bit more about how their supply chains are different, how you can produce clothes in different ways.
So as we said before, in fast fashion, the lifeblood of a fast fashion producer is its supply chain management. Supply chain management affects how the producer is able to put out its clothes, at what time frame, and in what response to trends. The H&M and the Zara supply chain model are fundamentally based on different objectives and result in different abilities for the companies to go for different consumer segments, and in the end, the overall profitability of these companies. So for H&M, their overall focus is on cost. It's on reducing the cost. This has resulted in a very decentralized system that focuses on, while centralized design in Stockholm relies on a lot of supplier relationships where the supplier is in charge of the manufacturing and sometimes even the trend forecasting, meaning that in a lot of aspects, H&M does not control a lot of its manufacturing. Indeed, as we look through this general control, the lack of control ensures that it isn't liable for costs at these manufacturing level. Moreover, when it plans each major collection, they plan it more than a year in advance. That's in order to make sure that they can put down costs and send the clothing to be supplied in Asia, which is the cheaper area to supply it. This means that around 80% of H&M's clothing is supplied in advance, which means that they cannot largely react to trends when only 20% of their current product offering can be based on current market trends. As distribution, they are able to move it through local distribution centers to retail stores. However, they do not have the supreme control of in-charge store managers, advanced IT systems, and historical data in order to have the advanced logistics and procurement system. So this means that the end product is cheap but has a very long lead time, isn't very reactive to trends, and is not as conducive to certain market needs as Zara. Zara focuses on being flexible and reactive and forecasting trends. Only 50% of their clothing is planned ahead in season at their centralized activity facilities in Spain. This means that their factories at any point, management can take a product out, put a product in, or fundamentally change the product design to be able to better fit forecasting needs. Indeed, 85% of factory capacity is used for in-season adjustments. Moreover, they utilize centralized distribution centers to ensure that any delivery every 2 weeks can be achieved usually within 24 to 48 hours. Every 2 weeks, a store will receive shipment of new product. This is so both store managers and customers are accustomed to new product drops and can expect constant new engagement and reasons to keep on going back to the store. Store managers are prioritized in the system to put weekly updates back to centralized facilities in order to change product forecasting and better address demand. Overall, this allows for Zara to have less inventory, less unsold items, less discounting, and greater product. This means overall they're able to offer a higher margin premium product that their consumers want because it better meets their demands, which outcompetes H&M's model that is solely based on price.
So as we've seen, H&M's strategy over the past few years has been going after aggressive growth, which they put around 10 to 15% in store count per year. And the key activities that they've been doing is chasing growth in emerging markets and underdeveloped markets such as, for H&M, such as the US and China. And the other thing is they have been engaged in building out their product offerings through acquisitions when they acquired Fabric Scandinavian and developing their own brands such as other stories. And they also manage their costs by virtually outsourcing every labor-intensive activity in their supply chain, which namely is production. And the reasoning behind what they're doing, or the key tenets that are driving this way of thinking or strategy for H&M, is that they believe that fashion has been globalized, meaning that once a product is successful or deemed fashionable in one market, it can be exported to all other markets, which falls into their idea of cost leadership and standardizing products to achieve economies of scale and compete on a price basis. And this belief in their cost leadership has driven their strategy in entering new markets which have low barriers to entry, like most other markets, and expanding in those markets and trying to capture as much market share and revenues as they can. We consider it to be a very aggressive defensive strategy, trying to go after Zara or Inditex and defend their market share against them. The results from that is that we see that they've over the past 5 years they've had a CAGR of sales of 6.4% and a CAGR in store count of 11.9%. So our evaluation of this strategy is that we don't believe that it's sustainable or viable in the long term. We've seen before that H&M's profitability is going down incrementally over the years, and for them to continue this strategy, they need the cash flows that they could reinvest into the business. And when you have a dwindling profitability, you can't keep doing that all the time. So we need to look at different strategies a different strategy that allows H&M to grow, but at the same time stay profitable and ensure that there are cash flows present to reinvest in the business. So our strategy is to increase or shift our focus on profitability and increase profitability by 5% over the next 5 years for H&M while maintaining the market share. And for H&M to achieve that goal, the activities that they need to engage in are going to be focused in 3 main areas, which is supply chain. The other one would be the brand, its branding, and segmentation. So when it comes to supply chain, while H&M cannot adopt a Zara-like model or an Inditex-like model in its supply chain, it can experiment with that in their smaller brands or the higher-end brands such as Cause, Monkey, and other stories. And essentially, they can leverage their very strong supply chain in Asia. They have a very big network of 800 plus suppliers in Asia that they could continue building their strong relationships with and leverage those strong relationships to be more reactive to the market in Asia, which is growing very fast. And at the same time, they consider building a capacity of their own to be as flexible and reactive to trends as possible. And the other thing is they need to keep the H&M brand going and after this broad-based strategy, but adding new product lines that are more profitable, such as sportswear, affordable beauty, and kidswear. And the logic behind all this is that while we need to maintain market share and growth, we need to look at profitability. Uh, the refocus on higher profitability products and upscale brands will provide us with that higher profitability with their higher price points at virtually no additional cost, since we'll be leveraging our own supply chain. And it stems from the insight that we had, is that we cannot directly compete with the H&M brand cannot directly compete with Zara on its own in its own segment, since they already own that segment, and we sort of need to refocus ourselves to the higher end brands that can actually take on Zara in hand-to-hand competition. And delving just a little bit deeper into the key activities that Zara needs to look at. So we spoke about their supply chain and leveraging that supply chain in Asia. When we look at what H&M has been doing, they've been building strong relationships that are based on sustainability and sort of stepping back from the hands-off approach and building very close relationships with their suppliers and manufacturers, which can be leveraged into better flexibility and reaction times, and building just like a feedback loop that they could get from their customers and stores and build into their production to react to trends. And as we mentioned, when we look at Zara, what makes them very responsive in Europe is that they have their own manufacturing capacity within close to the markets, which means that they can react faster to changing trends, and essentially they're close to their own distribution networks, which gives them very reduced lead times. And what we're recommending is that H&M experiments with that, since it will not be a big impact of change, since it start only doing that for first and for its smaller brands that are on par with Zara.
H&M has a core capability that while Zara targets the fashion insider, H&M can target a far greater market segment. Indeed, it can leverage its larger star volumes and product offerings to unlock different consumer needs than Zara. For example, their store size for H&M is around 21,000 square feet, while the average store size for Zara is only 10,000 feet. H&M can offer a whole host of different product offerings to ensure a total brand experience that ensures that consumers stay loyal and engage with the brand. Indeed, there are two possible high-growth product extension lines currently. There's the H&M Plus, which H&M has only extended around 150 items, even though it's a high-potential growth market for America. Moreover, there's the women's activewear market, which has exploded within the recent years and offers high margins due to relatively low material costs. If H&M is able to utilize these high growth product extensions, it can overall create a more profitable H&M store. Overall, H&M can address the Zara threat if it manages to deepen its connection to its current target markets and extend itself to better meet the needs of new potential markets. Thank you.